Welcome to Bosons Botany, and this video is all about complex permanent tissues. From this video onwards, I will describe the two main types of complex permanent tissues, which are xylem and phloem. So complex permanent tissues are basically vascular tissues because they are components of vascular bundle forming the vascular system of the plant, and therefore known as vascular tissues. And the first type of complex permanent tissue is xylem. And what is a xylem? It is basically a conducting tissue. And what does it conduct? It basically helps in the conduction of water and minerals from roots to leaves. So root is basically having a high concentration of water as well as minerals, and from root xylem helps in the conduction of water and minerals to the leaves, and these are needed, that is water and minerals, these are needed for photosynthesis, for biochemical processes which are carried out in leaves. So basically the conduction of water and minerals by the xylem element from roots to leaves. This is a very important function regarding xylem. Now what are the components forming xylem? There are basically four main components, which are tracheids, fibres, vessels or trachea, wood fibers and wood parenchyma. You can also segregate this fourth component into two parts. First wood fiber and the second one is wood parenchyma, but I have mentioned these two in a single heading. So according to me, there are four components: tracheids, fibers, vessels or trachea, wood fibers and wood parenchyma. Now here comes the first component, tracheid. So tracheids, these are fundamental cells of xylem. Xylem has these components, but tracheids, these are the fundamental components or fundamental cells of xylem, forming the basic building block of xylem element. Tracheids are elongated tube-like cells with round and tapering ends. So the cells are elongated tube-like with round and tapering ends. So the ends are tapered and round as well. Walls are hard and lignified. So from this you can conclude that tracheids are dead, and the next point is all about that. So tracheids have no protoplasts, and therefore when they are mature they become dead. So you don't remember, if you don't remember whether a cell is dead or not, then you need to know that the cell has thick wall or lignified wall, and therefore the cell has to be dead. So tracheids have lignified and hard walls, therefore no protoplast, and hence when they get matured they become dead. So tracheids are basically dead and empty cells. Why empty cells? Because inside the cells there are no protoplasmic content, no cytoplasm, means no living content is there inside the cells. So dead and empty cell. Walls have bordered pits. Pits are there which are bordered or having a thick outline, arranged in a row or any other form. So these bordered pits are arranged in a row or may form some other configuration, but basically they are arranged in a row. Large lumen are present without any contents. So dead cell means no contents, and there are large lumens or a single lumen is also present without any contents. Now there are following types of tracheids, and these are as follows: annular, spiral, reticulate, scleriform, and pitted. These are based on the basis of arrangement of pits. Tracheids have pits, bordered pits, and on the basis of the arrangement of these pits, there are following types of tracheids, which are annular, spiral, reticulate, scleriform, and pitted. So tracheids are classified on the basis of thickening pattern or arrangement of pits. So here are 5 basic types of tracheids, and I have drawn the diagrams as well. So the first one is annular type of tracheids. You can see the arrangement of pits or the thickening arrangement in a regular fashion. These pits are arranged one above the other in a vertical arrangement, in a row like manner, in a row, basically in a row, in a vertical arrangement. So this type of tracheid is known as annular type. The second one is spiral type. You can see this is forming a coil like structure, a helical structure, and a spiral coil is formed, and this is basically spiral type of tracheid. This is reticulate type. You can imagine blocks or bricks kept alternate in an alternate fashion horizontally. This is the first block, this is the second one, this is the third, fourth, and so on, placed in an alternate fashion horizontally, forming a reticulate type of tracheid. This is scleriform. You can see this is a kind of maze-like structure. This is like you can say stairs, not stairs basically, but a maze-like structure. And this is the final one, pitted type of tracheids, in which irregular arrangement of pits are present. You can see I have drawn the irregular arrangement here without any formal direction, without any appropriate position of these pits. These are scattered all over the space. So this is the pitted type of tracheids. So here are they. Just note them down carefully and have a very minute observation on each of the diagrams, so that you can understand the arrangement of these pits or arrangement of or the thickening arrangement pattern in all these 5 categories of tracheids. So here are 3 points, final 3 points describing tracheids. So tracheids, in case of gymnosperms and other type of ferns, tracheids alone makes the xylem. So in gymnosperm and some other ferns, tracheids is present alone without any other type of xylem elements. But in case of angiosperms, it is associated with vessels and other xylem elements. So this point is quite meaningful and important. So you can also distinguish a particular genre of plant on the basis of presence or absence of tracheids. If tracheids is present alone, then the plant could be a gymnosperm or some other type of fern. But if tracheids is associated with some other type of xylem element such as vessels, then the plant is basically angiosperm. Tracheid is meant for apoplastic type of water conduction. So tracheids basically helps in water conduction. This is the main function associated with tracheids, and the type of water conduction is apoplastic. And tracheids also helps to support the plant organs. So this is again a very important function that tracheids plays, but the main function is water conduction. Now the second type of xylem element or xylem component is fibres. But fibers resembles very well with that of tracheids. So phylogenetically, that is, if you trace the evolutionary history of fibers and tracheids, you cannot distinguish these two on the basis of their structures, their functions, their mode of origin, their ancestral histories. You cannot distinguish these two type of elements on the basis of phylogenetic evidences. Therefore we call fibers as fibers tracheids. I have written here only fibers, but we actually call fiber tracheids because fibers and tracheids are closely associated. Their functions resemble very well. They complement each other very well, and they cannot be differentiated very well on the basis of their functions, structures, and so on, because there is no well demarcation between tracheids and fibers. So fibers or fiber tracheids. Basically, fiber tracheids is the correct type of component to be mentioned for xylem element. I have written only fibers, but you need to write fibers tracheids because they are not distinguished very well. There is no well demarcation between tracheids and fibers. The second point is fibers or fiber tracheids may be septate or aseptate or aseptate, whatever you say. What is septate? I am not telling you right now. In the final point I will describe this point. Maybe libriform. This is a type of fibers, which means thick wall and reduced pits. So libriform type of fibers have thick wall with reduced pits. So the walls are thick but the pits are reduced, and that type of fibers is known as libriform. Protoplast may persist even after its wall thickening and maturation. As you have seen in case of tracheids, the cells are dead because there was no protoplast, the walls are thick. But in case of fibers, protoplast may persist, not very common, but it may persist. And if protoplast is present, then the cells are living even after having wall thickening and maturation. This is a very peculiar point, a very distinguishing feature about fibers, which is not very commonly seen in many of the tissues which we have already discussed in our previous lectures. So protoplast, if present, may present, and if protoplast is present, then the cells are living even after wall thickening and maturation. If protoplasts are separated from each other by transverse walls, then that type of fibers or fiber tracheids is known as septate fibers. So here septate comes, the word septate comes here. Fiber if has protoplasts, and if these protoplasts are separated from each other by a transverse wall or several transverse walls, then that type of fiber or fiber tracheids is known as septate fibers tracheids. So if you consider this tissue, this fiber tracheid tissue, I have drawn a very vague, a very bad diagram here, but just to give you an idea about septate fiber tracheids. If you consider this as the fiber tracheid tissue, and these black dots are protoplasts, there are many protoplasts, but they are not mixed with each other. They are not mixing because there are transverse walls. As you can see, I have drawn these walls with green pen, and these are separating the protoplast here. These are separation wall or partition wall or septation. Septation is a very important word, and therefore this type of fiber tracheid is a septate type of fiber tracheid because there are septations, there are transverse walls separating protoplast, and if protoplast is present, then septation is very commonly found. So this is very important. The final point here, the cells of fiber tracheids are present in rows and they are meant for mechanical support. So the main function of fiber tracheids is basically mechanical support, and the cells are present in rows, in several rows. So I have discussed two main components of xylem, and in my next video I will deal with the remaining three components. Thank you.